Kellen Eastston had built his hotel empire from nothing but grit, sleepless nights, and the unwavering belief that kindness was good business. What had begun as a single crumbling roadside inn 15 years ago had grown, through sacrifice and relentless effort, into a collection of 18 boutique hotels scattered across the country. Each one was a sanctuary, clean, affordable, and famously warm in spirit. That warmth had become the soul of the brand, a promise he'd poured his heart into keeping. But lately something had shifted. It started as a whisper. Reviews that were just slightly off, comments that stung more than they should have. A guest had found the staff dismissive, another had eaten cold food, a third had tried to report a problem and felt brushed off. The complaints weren't loud or frequent, but they carried a weight he couldn't ignore. Kellen didn't believe in managing through distance. He hated polished reports and second-hand truths. If something was wrong, he needed to see it with his own eyes and feel it with his own heart. So he packed a modest suitcase, leaving behind the tailored suits and executive persona. He chose one of the newer locations, a mid-size property tucked away in Colorado that had been open for less than a year. He had never met the staff there. To them, he would be no one. He shaved his beard, added subtle crow's feet with makeup, and dyed the gray at his temples to a forgettable brown. A pair of reading glasses and a slight limp sealed the disguise. He became Raymond Ellis, a soft-spoken retired history teacher from Ohio, with a penchant for quiet mornings and careful note-taking. Only his assistant knew the truth. No one at the hotel suspected a thing when he checked in quietly that Tuesday afternoon. At the front desk, the welcome was lukewarm at best. A young woman with sharp eyeliner and the distant energy of someone already halfway through her shift barely looked up. She slid the key card toward him with a practiced flick. "Room 213, breakfast from 6 to 10, don't be late. They hate cleaning up after stragglers," she said, without even glancing at him. Kellen offered a quiet, "Thank you." No reply came. Upstairs, the room was clean but sterile. He sat on the edge of the bed, pulled out a small leather journal, and began taking notes. Not of cleanliness or decor, but of mood, tone, the silent cues that told a story numbers never could. He didn't come to nitpick, he came to listen. The next morning, at exactly 7:00 a.m., Kellen walked into the breakfast area. The dining room carried the usual low hum of morning routines, older couples exchanging soft words over coffee, business travelers buried in their phones. The buffet was modest, just as he'd always insisted: scrambled eggs, sausage, fruit, pancakes, oatmeal. Consistency was key, but today, something else drew his attention. Near the juice bar, 2 employees whispered and giggled like high schoolers in the back of a classroom. One of them, a wiry young man named Brady, nudged the other and smirked. "Watch this," he muttered. "Old man Jenkins is coming." Kellen followed his gaze. An elderly guest, frail and hunched, shuffled slowly toward the buffet. His windbreaker was worn at the edges, and he clutched a small notebook in both hands, glancing at it like it held more than just reminders, like it held memory itself. Brady raised his voice. "Oh no, hide the quasars. He's gonna hoard 5 of them again like yesterday." His companion, a girl named Tori with short platinum hair and a laugh that cut through the quiet, chimed in mockingly. "Seriously, he took half the fruit bowl, like he's stockpiling for the apocalypse." Kellen felt his jaw tighten. The old man stopped mid-step, his expression crumpling into a confusion that quickly folded into shame. He turned around without a word and slowly made his way back to his table. Brady chuckled. "Didn't even say his name. Dude's half blind but can smell shame from across the room. Maybe he's got radar for regret," Tori added with a snort. Without a word, Kellen stood and poured himself a glass of orange juice, brushing past the pair. Brady looked up, nodded politely, then turned away. He didn't recognize the old man in glasses and brown hair, and that was good. Back at his table, Kellen stared at the untouched food on his plate. The eggs had cooled, the toast had lost its crunch. But it wasn't the meal that left a bitter taste. It was the realization of what his brand had become in corners like this. Then, like a ray of sunlight cutting through morning fog, a young housekeeper passed by pushing a supply cart. She paused beside the elderly guest. "Morning, Mr. Wexler," she said, voice soft and full of genuine warmth. "Would you like another cup of coffee?" He looked up, eyes tired but grateful. "That would be kind of you, Grace." Kellen watched her, this quiet Grace with a name to match, as she poured a fresh cup of coffee, added just a splash of cream, and returned it with care. "You need anything else?" she asked, gently. "No, dear," he murmured. "You're always so kind." In that moment, Kellen knew the rot hadn't spread everywhere, but it had begun, and this was no longer just about policies or protocols. This was about the soul of what he'd built, and if he didn't act now, that soul would be lost. Brady and Tori lingered near the corner of the dining room, smirking behind their half-emptied juice cups. Kellen, still in character, caught their gaze. Tori quickly looked away, suddenly interested in her phone. The moment lingered, a bitter aftertaste of something deeper than rudeness. It was the rot of indifference, the kind that spread quietly, invisibly, until it reached the heart of something once whole. Kellen waited until breakfast ended. After the last guest had wandered off, he moved through the hallway near the staff area under the pretense of searching for the restroom. That's when he heard Brady again. "I swear, if that old guy shows up tomorrow, I'm just gonna hide the fruit bowl." Tori laughed. "You're terrible." "I'm serious," Brady added, chuckling. "What does he think this is, a food bank?" Their laughter rang hollow down the corridor. Kellen stepped outside, his hands trembling. Not from anger, or not anger alone. It was deeper. Disappointment, disgust, a raw, guttural ache that lodged itself in his chest. He found a bench and sat down, facing the cold Colorado mountains. This poison of callousness was not the company he had built. He spent the rest of the day watching, listening. Small moments painted a larger, more troubling portrait. A guest asked for a cab and was casually told to Google it. Another needed a late checkout and was met with an eye roll and a dismissive shrug. These weren't just inconveniences. They were signs, quiet but sharp, that something sacred had been lost. But not everyone had lost it. Grace, the housekeeper with a quiet strength and tired eyes, remained alight. He watched her help an elderly woman carry a tray, clean up a juice spill without being asked, and offer smiles that didn't feel like part of her job, but part of her soul. That night, Kellen lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. He'd been here before, moments when he had to choose between delegating and getting his hands dirty. He reached for the phone, dialed his district manager. "I need you to stay out of the Colorado property this week. No calls, no check-ins." A pause. "Understood. You okay?" Kellen's eyes lingered on the night sky beyond the window. "I saw something today I can't unsee. I need to know what else is happening behind closed doors." The next morning he arrived early. The breakfast room was quieter than the day before. Less chatter, more silence. Brady wasn't there, but Tori was. She stood idly behind the juice bar, scrolling her phone with one hand while stirring yogurt with the other. The manager entered, mid-40s, clean-cut, wearing a navy sweater vest. He scanned the room, walking straight past a napkin spill near the entrance without even a glance. A guest slipped slightly but caught herself. 2 minutes passed. No one moved. Kellen rose, fetched a handful of napkins, and slowly bent down, covering the spill. The sweater-vested manager finally took notice. "You okay there, sir?" Just didn't want anyone falling, Kellen replied, standing slowly. Looked like an accident waiting to happen. The manager gave a short, indifferent nod and walked away without a thank you, pivoting instead to greet a new couple with an almost robotic cheeriness. Kellen remained still for a moment, the disconnect sinking in. After breakfast, he lingered by the elevators. Grace passed by, pushing her cart, hair tucked behind her ears, a checklist in one hand, a tired breath escaping her lips. She was clearly exhausted, but alert. "Grace, right?" he said softly. She turned, startled, then smiled politely. "Yes, sir. Can I help you?" "No. Just notice. You always take time for people." She looked away for a second, like the compliment was foreign to her. "They're guests." That's the job, isn't it?" "It is," Kellen replied. "But it doesn't seem like everyone sees it that way." She hesitated, her eyes flickering. "You're not wrong." Before Kellen could ask more, a voice barked from the hallway. "Grace, room 49 still dirty, let's move." "I got it," she called back, already pushing the cart into motion. Kellen stepped aside, watching her disappear down the hall, her steps quickening. By midday, Kellen ventured into town, needing air, perspective. He picked up a sandwich from a quiet cafe and walked back toward the hotel. As he neared the loading dock, he spotted a man in a maintenance uniform sitting on a bench, eating chips from a paper bag. His badge read, "Lewis." "You off shift?" Kellen asked. Lewis looked up, startled. "Lunch, 15 minutes. Mind if I sit?" Lewis shrugged and scooted his jacket aside. Kellen took a seat. They watched a delivery truck reverse toward the dock. "Busy place?" Kellen said. Lewis scoffed. "Too busy. How many are on your team?" "Just me." Kellen turned slightly. "Just you, for the whole property?" Lewis nodded, crumpling his chip bag. "They said they were hiring someone 8 months ago. Still waiting." "You cover everything?" "Plumbing, heating, elevator checks, light bulbs, landscaping, ice machines, laundry leaks. If it breaks, I fix it." Kellen exhaled. "That's a lot." Lewis leaned back. "I do what I can, but I can't be everywhere. Some stuff just does." "Do they know how stretched you are?" "My manager says log your hours and stop complaining, so I do." Kellen didn't respond. He just sat there, the silence between them louder than anything. "Anyway, break's over," Lewis said, brushing off crumbs. "You a guest?" "Yeah." Lewis gave a short wave. "Enjoy your stay." Kellen watched him walk away, then made his way to the lobby, where a young mother with 2 toddlers approached the desk. She was calm but clearly tired. I called ahead. They said there would be a crib in our room." The clerk, a young man with thick glasses, didn't even look up. "We don't guarantee requests," he said flatly. She blinked. "But I called, they said." "Doesn't matter, it's not policy." The woman's face fell. One of the toddlers tugged at her sleeve. Kellen clenched his jaw. These moments weren't just cracks in service. They were cracks in trust. And trust, he knew, was the hardest thing to rebuild once broken. "Guaranteed," the clerk muttered with a shrug. "You can check the luggage room, maybe there's one available." The mother's eyes widened, trying to comprehend what she'd just heard. "You want me to carry a crib up myself?" she asked. "That's how it works," Elise said coldly, without lifting his gaze. She stood there, stunned. For a moment it looked as if she might cry, but instead she turned, clutching her toddler's hands, and silently walked toward the elevators. Kellen had seen enough. He stepped forward with calm, deliberate steps and said in a low voice, "That woman needed help." Billy finally looked up. "Not my job to take stuff to rooms. You could have at least called someone." "Housekeeping's short today," he said without a trace of concern. "And they don't like doing extras." Kellen gave a slow nod, his face unreadable. "What's your name?" Billy's eyes narrowed. "Why?" Just curious. Billy. Kellen walked away, but not far. He waited quietly near the hallway that led to storage. Minutes passed. Then Grace appeared, her small frame burdened by a heavy, folded crib. Her cheeks were flushed from the effort. "You're bringing that up yourself?" Kellen asked, more statement than question. "She's got 2 kids, I couldn't say no." She could have heard herself trying. "That's why I didn't let her," Grace replied with a faint, tired smile as she maneuvered past him. He followed a few steps behind, watching her lift the crib into the elevator. No one offering to help, no one even noticing. That evening, Kellen sat on a courtyard bench in the back of the hotel. The night air was crisp and the buzz of cars on the nearby road filled the silence in his mind. The assistant general manager, sweater vest and all, stepped outside and lit a cigarette. Kellen rose and approached. "Evening." The man glanced over. "You lost?" "No, just getting some air." Pause. "You run this place?" "Assistant GM. Been here since opening last spring." "Big job." "Yeah," the manager said, exhaling. "Understaffed, overbooked, and regional breathing down our necks about numbers." Kellen nodded slowly. "People seem overwhelmed." "That's hospitality," the man shrugged. "Sink or swim, with your mouth shut." Kellen raised a brow. "You think that's sustainable?" The manager flicked his cigarette to the ground. "We're making budget, that's what matters." He walked inside without another word. That night Kellen opened his leather journal and began writing. Each line was more than observation. It was an autopsy. Lewis, one-man maintenance team. Grace, doing the work of 5 people, burning herself out. Ill, dismissive, unbothered. Tori, apathetic, careless. Management, focused on numbers, blind to people. The next morning, Kellen dressed differently. Charcoal dress shirt, dark slacks. No longer the soft sweater Raymond Ellis. His hair had faded just enough to show natural gray. The glasses were gone. His voice would be, too. At just before 7, he slipped through the staff entrance. No one stopped him. He waited by the supply closet. Grace arrived and reached for her clipboard, then froze. "You're not supposed to be back here," she said, cautious. "I know, just need a word." She hesitated. "I can't be seen talking here." "Then let's walk." She studied him, then nodded. They slipped outside through the side door into the chilly alley behind the dumpsters. She wrapped her arms around herself against the cold. "I'm not trying to cause trouble," Kellen said. "I just want to understand." Her eyes narrowed. "You're not a guest, are you?" "No." "Who are you?" "Billing culture too." "I just need a little trust." She folded her arms. "You've been watching everyone." "I have." "What do you want from me?" "Honesty." She looked away, then spoke slowly, her words heavy with buried frustration. "This place wasn't always like this. When we opened, we had training, support, people cared. Then corporate stopped showing up, budget cuts hit. First we lost our floor supervisor, then a cleaner, then 2 night shift agents. They never replaced anyone. The people who stayed, they got bitter. Some quit. Some just stopped trying." "Do you feel safe speaking up?" "No. The AGM says we can talk to him, but if you complain too much, your hours get cut." "Do you get breaks?" "Technically, but we're too short to take them." "Anyone else still trying?" "Lewis," she whispered. "He doesn't sleep. I don't know how he does it." Kellen nodded. "All right." She looked at him sharply. "You're going to do something, aren't you?" He met her gaze. "Very soon?" He left her there and walked past the boiler room, where Lewis was hunched over a leaking pipe, and stepped onto the staff elevator. Tomorrow, he'd reveal everything, but today, he needed one final look, not to see who was failing, but who still believed. He waited in the alcove near the lobby, now dressed like himself. Clean lines, composed, with just a hint of his natural age returning. The breakfast rush was over. Most guests had checked out. The lobby was still. Then he stepped forward. Illy was at the front desk, earbuds in, typing. He didn't even glance up. Kellen stood silently, 10 seconds. Then he spoke. "You're late." Illy blinked, confused. "Yeah, can I help you?" "I'm not a guest anymore," Kellen said evenly. "I'm Kellen Eastston." The name hit like thunder. Ilya's hands froze above the keyboard. He stared, scanning Kellen's face, his shirt, his eyes. You're the owner?" Color drained from his face. "Take out the earbuds, now." Ilya yanked them out with trembling fingers. "Call your assistant general manager to the front desk immediately, and stay right here." Ilya nodded, reaching for the phone. Kellen turned and walked toward the dining area. Staff were clearing tables. At the far end, Grace was wiping down a high chair. "You're going to want to come with me," he said softly. She looked up, startled. "Is something wrong?" "No. Something's about to be made right." She followed him, hesitantly at first, then with more certainty as she felt the change in the air. Guests began to whisper, heads turned. The AGM, Nairin, emerged from the back office, puzzled, then froze. "Can I help you? You can explain why your team has made this property unrecognizable." "I'm sorry, who?" "I'm the man who signs your paycheck." Nalen's jaw clenched. His gaze darted from Grace to Illy, now standing rigid. "I want staff brought into the conference room now. Every department head, everyone on shift." "We're in turnover right now," Nalen stammered. "Housekeeping just started." "Then they can spare 10 minutes. If they've been running on fumes this long, they've earned it." 15 minutes later, the conference room filled. Housekeepers, front desk clerks, Lewis last of all, wiping grease from his hands. He stopped. "You're the guy from the bench." "Oh, I am." Lewis nodded and took a seat. Kellen remained standing. "I came here pretending to be someone else, because I had to know what was really happening. I had to see it for myself. What guests experience. What you all face every day." Silence. Glances exchanged. Uncertainty in the air. "I saw people doing more than anyone should be asked. I saw someone carry a crib up 3 flights of stairs without help. I saw one man, Lewis, keeping the entire building running alone. And Grace doing the job of 5 people with nothing but heart." He paused, letting the words settle. "This isn't just a staff problem. This is a leadership problem. It ends today." Grace sat silently, eyes cast downward, the weight of the moment heavy on her shoulders. Kellen continued, his voice steady but charged. "I also saw employees mock our guests. I saw people ignore human beings as if their presence was a nuisance. And worse, I saw leaders," his eyes locked directly on Nalen, "who let it happen." Nalen shifted uncomfortably. Don't," Kellen cut in. "Don't spin it. Don't tell me about budgets or staff shortages. I've run hotels with half this head count and double the heart. This isn't about numbers. It's about culture, and that's something leadership shapes." He turned to the wall of staff gathered in tension. "Where are Brady and Tori?" Nalen cleared his throat. "Brady's off. Tori's in laundry." "You get her." The housekeeper slipped out. Minutes later, Tori entered, arms crossed, her posture defensive. She froze the moment she saw Kellen at the head of the room. "You're being suspended," he said plainly, "pending a full investigation. If your behavior is confirmed by others, you won't be returning." She opened her mouth, but he raised a hand. "This isn't a debate." He turned to Illy. "You're being reassigned to a back office role at a different location. You will not interact with guests again until you complete full retraining. If you fail, you're done." Illy nodded without protest, eyes fixed on the floor. Finally, Ken looked back at Nayland. As for you, you're being replaced. A breath escaped from the room. Quiet relief swept through the staff like a change in pressure. You'll remain for the next 7 days. Your only job is to brief your replacement. You won't make policy decisions, change schedules, or discipline anyone. Grace looked up, startled. Why keep him? Because someone needs to explain the full extent of this mess. And I want him to feel what it's like to be held accountable. Then Kellen placed both palms flat on the table and spoke with firm resolve. Starting now, this hotel will be different. Grace is being promoted to lead housekeeping supervisor. She'll get 2 new hires within the month and will rebuild her team alongside the new GM. He turned to Lewis. You're getting help. A second technician starts next week. Until then, we're sending a float tech to relieve the pressure. Lewis blinked slowly, then nodded, just once, but it carried weight. To those of you who showed up, when no one was watching, when no one said thank you. From now on, you'll be heard. He leaned back. This company was built on people. Not margins, not numbers. Somewhere along the way that got lost. That's on me. I let myself drift too far. That ends now. Silence held for several beats. Any questions? None came. Then let's get back to work. As the room emptied, Grace lingered near the door. You meant all of it? Kellen looked at her. Every word. She nodded, then quietly, Then I'll stay. Lewis passed her and gave a small nod. By late afternoon, something subtle but unmistakable had shifted. It wasn't fixed, not yet, but the tension had cracked. Eyes met where they hadn't before. Voices softened. Even guests received warmer greetings. And in the stillness of the second-floor office, Kellen watched it unfold like a tide slowly pulling back the damage. 2 weeks passed. The new general manager, Dana Trujillo, had arrived 3 days prior. Kellen had chosen her not because she fit a profile, but because she defied one. She didn't wear suits. She wore rolled-up sleeves and knew how every system in a hotel functioned, from drain traps to guest sentiment analysis. She didn't announce authority, she earned it. By the end of her first day, she'd walked every floor, memorized every name, and sat with the graveyard shift over vending machine coffee. Kellen had watched from a distance. She didn't perform, she listened. That morning, Kellen joined Grace and Lewis for a follow-up. Dana had asked him to sit in, but this wasn't his meeting anymore. He arrived early. This time, every staffer greeted him. Not out of fear, but recognition. Grace entered first. She looked sharp, navy blouse, slacks, her new title gleaming on a fresh badge. She sat with confidence, her old anxiety tempered with purpose. Lewis came next. His uniform was updated, his steps still heavy but no longer burdened. There was something lighter in him. Relief, maybe even pride. Dana arrived last, tablet in hand. She didn't sit at the head. She sat beside Lewis. Thanks for coming, Kellen said. Grace folded her hands. We wanted to talk about how to make the changes stick. This isn't just about hiring. People are still on edge. That's normal, Dana said. You've been in survival mode. Trust doesn't come back with memos. It comes back with proof. Lewis leaned in. I'm not asking for a miracle, but we need limits. I've started logging every work order. 18 tickets a day isn't sustainable. I reviewed the logs, Dana said. You're right. We've already secured a part-time tech from Denver. Corporate saw the boiler photos you sent. That leak you patched with foam, it scared them. Lewis nodded. It's holding, for now. Replacement parts are en route. Ellen looked at Grace. What about your team? I've got 3 on rotation. Better than 2, but still stretched. Towels are late. Some rooms aren't polished. We've got interviews this weekend, Dana said. I want you in on them. Me? Grace asked, surprised. You'll be their supervisor. Your opinion matters more than mine. Lewis chuckled softly. That's a first. Dana looked at him. That's how it should have always been. Kellen nodded. This is what I came to see. Staff and leadership talking like they're on the same team. Grace looked over. People still talk about what you did, disguising yourself. Some feel guilty, others embarrassed. They should, Kellen replied, but only if they do something with it. Guilt without change is just pride. Lewis leaned back. Brady quit. Didn't want to stick around. Expected, Dana said. We don't chase those who want out. We support those who want to stay. Tori's still here, Grace added. Quiet, doesn't joke, doesn't cut corners. She's on a 90-day review, Dana said. If she earns trust back, she stays. If not, she goes. Kellen nodded. That's fair. The meeting broke up. Dana returned to her office. Grace to the linen orders, Lewis to the second floor. 2 flickering lights were waiting. Kellen walked to the dining area. He sat at the table where he'd first seen Mr. Wexler humiliated. The old man hadn't returned. Kellen had tried to reach him. No email, no number, just a name. He hoped that last memory wasn't the laughter of thoughtless youth. A new server approached, young, bright-eyed. Her name tag read Lena. Can I clear that for you? She asked. I'm still working on it, thanks. She lingered. You're the owner, right? Yes. I just wanted to say, it feels different now. People say good morning. People care. He smiled. That's good to hear. She nodded and walked off. At the front desk, a guest asked for a hiking trail. Illy, now stationed at the concierge desk, pulled out a printed map and even circled a coffee stop. Kellen didn't interrupt. He simply walked past, stepping outside. The air was crisp, the landscaping neat. A delivery van pulled in and the driver waved. Kellen waved back. For a while, he just stood there, watching the quiet rhythm of a hotel beginning to breathe again. Not perfect, but healing. He reached into his coat, pulled out his leather notebook, flipped to the final page. One line, never assume the culture you built is still the one standing. He closed the book and walked to his car, not to escape, but to make room for the ones ready to carry it forward.